Thank you, Senator Moran, on both counts. Senator Graham.
Thank you. Good morning. So on the Russia front, we had lunch, and I really appreciate what you and your team are doing. There's a lot on your plate. You know, you wanted money in the supplemental. Is there any additional authority you need from Congress to be more aggressive in terms of going after the oligarchs and kleptocracy? Do you need any legal changes?
Yeah, so I thank you for asking about that. We have been very carefully examining that question, and I expect that there will be requests for legislative changes. These could go particularly in the way in which we do the forfeitures to make it easier for us to do the forfeitures. I think I mentioned earlier also the possibility of taking money out of the forfeiture fund that we collect this way and sending it to Ukraine. So the answer is yes, and we are hard at work on it, and I expect very soon, within days probably, that the administration will be able to present some requests.
Well, good, Mr. Attorney General. I think there'll be a receptive audience to give you more money if that's what it needs to go after the people who've profited from destroying the Russian economy. Along that line, there's articles in the paper about family members that have been used by Putin to sort of launder money, and talk of a girlfriend in Sweden. Do you know anything about an effort to bring sanctions against her?
First answer is no, and the second answer, I guess, is if I did know, I wouldn't be able to discuss it.
Fair enough.
This is a Treasury Department issue.
I would encourage you to put everything on the table. When it comes to Afghanistan, have you been briefed recently about the possibility of terrorism emanating from Afghanistan into the United States? Has that threat level gone up or down, or do you know?
We are. The details of that, I'd have to defer to a classified briefing.
All right, that's fair.
But I think it is fair to say that we are constantly concerned about the risk that ISIS-K will try to mount something in the United States. Likewise, continuing with respect to Al-Qaeda. But the FBI is putting all its enormous amount of resources into preventing that, as is the intelligence community outside the United States.
Okay, well, let's stay in touch on that. Sort of back to the border. This idea of taking Title 42 out of the toolbox in terms of a way to deal with illegal immigrant crossings. Do you believe if Title 42 is repealed, there would be a surge at the border?
I think it's important for me to explain our role in this, and the Justice Department's only role is when the CDC makes its assessment, as it did, and asks us to appeal for us to determine whether that would be lawful. And the department concluded that the CDC's.
But you're in charge. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah, and so that was so. I think to answer the other part of your question, I think all intelligence suggests that there will be a large increase in the border. Yes.
Now, when it comes to drugs,
migrants, yeah.
Right. When it comes to drugs coming into the United States from the southern border, in the last year, has that problem gotten better or worse?
I don't know what the numbers are. I mean, it is obviously the case that the transportation of fentanyl particularly has increased. Fentanyl is much easier. It's much more compact, much smaller, goes a longer way. The smugglers, particularly in the trucks, have developed ways to hide it even from our X-rays. Yeah. So that problem of fentanyl crossing the border has definitely increased in a way that makes all of us very worried.
Okay. So when it comes to your role in all this, if Title 42 is repealed and we get a surge, there's an increase in fentanyl coming across the border, and the leading cause of death for Americans from 18 to 45, they tell me, is fentanyl overdose. Do you think this budget and the game plan for the Biden administration will be effective against this increase?
I think that the budget we've asked for drug trafficking and drug interdiction, which is $9.8 billion, is a huge amount and enormous allocation of America's resources in this respect. But again, our job is different than the Department of Homeland Security's
No,
jobs.
I
and I
got
can't
you.
speak to their resources.
And I'll try to wrap up here, but drug interdictions are dramatically less than they were in FY 2021. We had 913,000. That's how much drugs were interdicted. Now we're at 340,000. It seems to be that interdiction is going down. So my basic question is, do you consider the border in a state of crisis?
I think, as you rightly pointed out, there's going to be a lot, the intelligence suggests there'll be a lot of people, a lot more people migrating to the border.
The reason I mention that is I believe it is. I believe that the amount of drugs coming across are unprecedented. The amount of people coming across the border illegally is unprecedented. It seems to be every trend line is getting worse. And to be honest with you, Mr. Attorney General, I think we need to go all in, all hands on deck of controlling our border. And do you believe that what we have in place through this budget and the system as a whole, that we can expect to turn this around?
I think that the money, with respect to the Justice Department, which is the only thing I can speak to, I think that if you give us the increased resources that we're asking for, we can do our job.
Okay, so 6 months from now, we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Graham.